welcome to A Moment of Bach, where we take our favorite moments from the composer's vast musical output, just a minute's worth, or even a few seconds, and show you why we think they are remarkable. We are your hosts, Alex and Christian Giebert, and we're wrapping up our biggest mini-series yet. And that's because this is Brandenburg Concerto No. 1. If you know that piece, you know it has multiple movements. The end of Brandenburg 1 is a grand minuet with several interspersed trios, and then, in the very middle of it, is our focus today, the Polonaise movement from Brandenburg 1. Alex, are you familiar with Godfellas? The Futurama episode? Ah, good. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't say, don't you mean Goodfellas? But yes, I'm talking about season 3, episode 20 of the TV show Futurama, which has a title Godfellas, which is a pun on Goodfellas. Do you remember any musical cues from this episode? No, I don't. It's been a while since I've seen it. Okay, well, as you probably remember, Alex, it's an episode where the robot Bender is lost in space, but he ends up with like a colony of aliens on him, and he becomes sort of like their god. Yeah. And then he gets to experience all the difficulties of being a deity figure for them. Yeah, yep. And then he runs into a greater being, another godlike being of the universe, and has a fascinating conversation with it, which has one of my favorite lines in it, which is Bender saying, "Do you know everything I do before I do it?" And the being says, "Yes." "Well, what if I do something different?" "Then I don't know that." So, but Bender, at one point when he's lost in space, before he meets this creature, this omniscient being, he's bored, so he pulls out a little piano from his drawer, which is his body, and he starts to play a Polonaise, a Chopin Polonaise.
Wait, I know! Ah, the pity. Fated to drift forever through the void as gravity's plaything.
Chopin is probably the primary composer you'd think of when you think of the Polonaise. It is a dance. The writer Edward Baxter Perry, who wrote this in 1909, has this to say: "The coronation ceremony, which took place in October of 1573, was one of the most magnificent affairs ever witnessed. For Poland was then at the height of her power, wealth, and splendor. One of the important features of this grand festival was a presentation ceremony to introduce the members of the court and aristocracy to the new king. A reception of regal proportions. All the great lords and ladies of the realm, arrayed in their most sumptuous apparel, with all the available jewels and evidence, assembled in one of the lower halls in the royal castle, formed in a glittering procession, marched stately pomp up the grand staircase, through various halls, galleries, and antechambers, finally up the length of the vast magnificent throne hall to the dais, where the king awaited them, there to be presented to his majesty by the grand master of ceremonies. This march was accompanied by suitable music written for the occasion by a local composer. Music intended not only to mark the rhythm of the march, but add to the pomp and pride and beauty of the occasion, and to embody the peculiar characteristics and national traits of the Poles. It was a musical presentation of the Polish people to their new monarch." Then and there was born the Polonaise, which has gradually developed into a definite, complete, and quite elaborate musical form, recognized and used the world over, the common property of all composers. So Alex, this old quotation by this musician and writer does take a little bit of Polish culture and just assert that it belongs to everyone now, which I don't know if our Polish composer friends would agree, but certainly a lot of non-Polish composers over the years have also used the Polonaise as a form of music, as a dance form or part of their compositions. Mm-hmm. The opening sentence of this essay has the word vicissitudes in it, which I had to look up to make sure I knew what it meant.
Vicissitudes.
Do you know what vicissitudes mean?
The vicissitudes of fate.
Do you know
that's all I know, but I don't really. Does it mean like quirks or like weird things that are random? Is that what vicissitudes mean?
That's part of it. It's a change of circumstances or fortune, but typically one that is unwelcome or unpleasant, according to Oxford Dictionary.
So that's vicissitudes of fate.
Yeah.
What's vicissitudes of fate from? I know that. It's just like a saying, I guess.
I know where you got it from.
Is it Godfellas?
No. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the letter V.
Oh, is it V for Vendetta?
Yeah, it's something that he says when he says all those V words.
Yep.
So that opening sentence is, this distinctively Polish musical form, which has been so closely identified with Poland's history through all her manifold vicissitudes during more than 3 centuries, originated in 1573 in Krakow, then the Polish capital, on the occasion of the coronation of the young French prince Henry d'Anjou as King of Poland. So for us, Alex, that means that the Polonaise has been around for a while. We've heard a Polonaise crop up on this show, actually, when we covered the orchestral suite in B minor. It is a triple meter dance. You would dance in pairs with a partner. You might form up into a big tunnel of all the pairs so that someone special can march through. Another fun fact is that it's often used as like a senior prom. It's like a high school age type, what we in United States would call high school prom, I guess. And in Poland, it's used in that ceremony as a preparation for the last part of the year where you study for your exams. So it's like a last hurrah party before cracking down to study. And the Baroque Polonaises can be quite joyful and light, but with this almost tinge of heaviness to them. By the time you get to Chopin, you might have Polonaises that have all kinds of characters. Military, broad, happy, festive, but also extremely sad or brooding or haunting. And they're all Polonaises. Sometimes they have a driving rhythm that's almost like bolero rhythm, sort of like a bum, ba-rum, ba-rum, bum, bum, ba-rum. Not exactly like the precise rhythm of Ravel's bolero, but something like that in triple meter. There's also a whole bunch of Polonaises in the Anna Magdalena notebook, but I don't think Bach wrote them. This Polonaise, which is sandwiched in the very middle of our minuet, is very short, but there is so much inside. It gives the other violinists a chance to shine too, because the solo piccolo violin of this concerto has to sit this one out because it goes too low. The violin 1 part is too low for it. So this is just written for strings. Violin 1, violin 2, viola, and continuo instruments. And we do hear a pretty low register of these instruments, which is quite lovely. And we hear the first violins with this elegant da-da-da-da-da pattern. Elegance is part of the name of the game with the Polonaise.
It's also a really good contrast to the previous movement that is one of the minuets, and the choice here by Netherlands Bach Society was to do that minuet with just the oboes, bassoon, and I think horns, right? Yeah, and horns. So just the wind instruments.
Because it came right after that trio.
Because it came right after the trio that's the oboes and bassoons, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a great contrast with this.
And then after the Polonaise is done, they perform the third of 4 refrains of the minuet with just the strings. It's as if they are paired together, these iterations of the refrain, with the previous contrasting section, the trios and the Polonaise. The Polonaise. It has this rising quality. And then a fall. And then a rise again. Rise again. And the way they finish this first section with this slight lift, something that's not in the score, but also how they finished the first 8-bar section of this 16-bar A section of the Polonaise. They also slow just ever so slightly and then pick it back up. It's a very subtle touch. And this is way too specific of something that would be notated in Bach's score, and indeed it's not. In Bach's manuscript, there are slur markings for the violin bowing. That's about it, except for a forte, which we'll get to in a moment. We get to the second section, the B section of the Polonaise. We hear something quite striking. In Bach's own hand, the marking forte is also used by the Netherlands Bach Society here to completely change the articulation of what they play. So in the second part of the second section of this Polonaise, suddenly everything changes, including the tempo, including the speed. It is a striking contrast, and it's pretty sudden. I'm loving how they slow down back into the piano to finish out the second section of the Polonaise. That piano is also marked in Bach's handwriting.
I don't think they actually speed up. Well, I guess they do a little, but it's not much.
It's not much, but it really seems like they slow down.
Well, it feels like 3 times as fast because suddenly the macro beats feel like the quarter notes. I think that's what's causing it to feel faster. There's also the articulation because it's bum ba bum ba bum ba bum.
Yeah.
As opposed to bum 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 bum.
But there's some sort of magic about how they slow down into the piano that makes it seem like they're slowing back down.
They do a retard at the last measure, but then they go back to the tempo, but it does feel slower because now the macro beat is 3 times as long. It's very clever. But I also think even without the tempo stuff, it's remarkable that to get this contrast, Bach does not just do one thing. He doesn't just go from piano to forte. He does 3 things. He goes from piano to forte. He changes the articulation from slurs to staccatissimo, really very short, sharp notes. And then he does like the completely different melodic line there, adding 30-second notes. So instead of the da-da-da-da-da-da, it's dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun. So the material is different rhythmically too.
Not only are there more notes, but they're also bowed separately because he has not marked the paired slurs that he has before with the 16th notes, and this is much more rapid fire. It comes off as 4 times as fast of bowing because when you bow 2 16th notes together, you're bowing the duration of an 8th note with 1 bow. And when you bow 30 seconds separately in that same speed, that seems like 4 times as fast as 8th note. The energy is increased so much. And you're right, he did write all that. Those articulations are something he wrote. Another thing he did not write is the slight, subtle pause that the continuo players do on that 16th note run. On the first repeat to go back to the second section, they have 6 notes to play. They have 1 note on the downbeat that's low. Then they've got to jump up a 10th, which is an octave plus a third, and then they can step down. In order to make that sound more natural, it actually is better to not just play it as written, but instead to introduce the slightest break between the first and second of those 16th notes. It's subtle. It's like the difference between and.
Yeah, that is subtle.
But it was definitely something that they worked out, and I'm sure it's a thing that in rehearsal they actually had to speak out loud, instruct the musicians to do. That section is repeated and terminates in a rather quick little da-da-dum, happy little sighing motif at the end. And that's it for the Polonaise, or Polacca, if depending on the score you're using. That's the Italian. It's the same term. Did Bach say Polacca or Polonaise? So. No, he said neither. He used the third option. I'm looking at it. I think if I'm reading his cursive correctly, it looks like his version is Polonaise. Polonaise? Maybe it's another French way, but it's the other way to spell it, which is Poloinesse. And this Polonaise, as you've said, Alex, in our previous couple of episodes, there is a structure, there's a symmetrical structure to the minuet, and this Polonaise is basically the centerpiece, the elegant, jewel-adorned centerpiece of this minuet, which goes refrain, trio 1 with the oboes and bassoons, refrain, Polonaise, refrain, trio 2 with horns, and final refrain. Do you remember what happens when Bender plays Chopin's C minor Polonaise on his little piano?
No.
He says, I've got all of eternity to master my piano skills. And then he keeps messing up, and then he gets mad, and then he takes his candle centerpiece and smashes his little piano, which the pieces float out into space.
The only thing that keeps me sane is the thought that I have all eternity in which to perfect my art. Ah.
And now, here is that moment from the Polonaise from Brandenburg 1, the forte staccatissimo notes. This concludes our mini-series on Brandenburg Concerto No. 1. I guess you can look forward to next year, in which we will definitely talk about Brandenburg Concerto No. 2. After that, we'll have to find something else to look at.
We will.
Because then we will have done all 6. But don't worry, there's still plenty of music to talk about.
That's right.
We will not run out.
No. So now that this mini-series is over, what will we be looking at next week?
Next week we will return to BWV 80, Ein feste Burg ist unser Gott. The mighty fortress is our God. This time we'll look at the second movement, which is a soprano chorale and bass aria.
Until next time, through all your manifold vicissitudes, enjoy those moments.
So, do you know what I'm gonna do before I do it?
Yes.
What if I do something different?
Then I don't know that.
Cool.